Well, this is the beginning of our camp trip. We over the course of 3 days, 2 nights, we went roughly around 250 miles through Idaho backcountry. A lot of narrow dirt roads and a little bit of asphalt. And you'll see later in the video that my brother's Jeep didn't much care for asphalt. So, anyways. So on this trip, my dad and I actually did this trip 2 years ago, just the two of us. My dad's got the blue Jeep, my brother's in the green Jeep, my friend Doug is in the yellow, and Luke is in the gold Jeep. Doug is Luke's father-in-law, so it was pretty good trip. But anyways, we went and did a different trip last year, and we all had a really good time. Well, we got to talking about the previous year's trip, so we told those guys that we would bring them all on that trip this year so they could experience it too. Kind of worried that one of those roads isn't going to be open for too much longer unless the Forest Service does something about it. It is so brushed in, and you'll see that was day 2 travel, but it's very brushed in, dragging both sides of the vehicle. There's stobs in all the brush. It's dangerous, so we really wanted to get this trip done before that does grow in or it gets shut down. So we made the plan and went for it. Of course, we picked the hottest weekend of the summer so far. It was 113 degrees on my pickup when we got back into town. So it was nice to be out in the mountains for a couple days. We camped by water each day, and it was made it nice to be able to bathe. The first night's creek was too cold to be able to actually lay down in, though. We just used a little water and dusted ourselves off. This is all area that we ride snowmobiles in the winter time, and it's actually highly traveled. This first leg is it's the 500 road, and it's part of the BDR. So you saw a couple motorcycles a little bit ago. We ran into a lot of motorcycles. I didn't get any pictures, I don't think. It was day 1. Towards the end of the day, we ran into a group of motorcycles from Canada came up behind us, and turned out one of their guys actually wrecked and broke his leg. He came up to the group, and where we're fairly local, we guided them on the fastest way down off the mountain and closest place to be able to make a phone call. So I haven't heard if how that trip went, but they had about 10-12 miles from where we saw them to the highway, and then it was a little over an hour ride up the highway to get to Missoula, Montana, where nearest help would be. So hopefully he was all right. They were really cool guys, a lot of fun to talk to while we were figuring all that out. Just yeah, you got to be careful out there. In order to save space on my phone, I used hyperlapse a lot on this video, so I didn't get a lot of regular one-to-one speed. Um, we drove 8 hours the first day, 6 hours the second day, and I'm not even sure how long it was the third day. So yeah, I didn't have a whole lot of space on my phone to do this, so that's why there's so many fast forward sections of it, just trying to get as much of the scenery as you can, but you have to look real fast to see it. So this junction right here is actually where the motorcycles caught up to us, and we could see that the guy's leg was broke. So we guided them on where they needed to go, and there was actually another side-by-side that showed up and followed them down. So we're pretty sure they made it all right. Just we don't know, and probably never will. But anyways, from here we pressed on. We had about 2.5 more hours to go, I believe. I ended up in the lead on this stretch, so there's no dust, but the road got considerably worse than it was up to this point, and it's not a real great road, and this is kind of a precursor to the bad road that I was talking about earlier. It's just this one's rough, but it's not brushed in. The other one's rough and brushed in. So this stretch out on the motorway off to the right, you see those big rocks, that's called Devil's Chair. You go a ways further out, it's called Indian Post Office. There's a lake down below you can kind of look down at. I didn't get any footage of that, but there's some real neat history on this road. I called it the 500 earlier because that's what it is, but it's the Lolo motorway. And so it follows along with the Lewis and Clark Trail where they came through Idaho. And so there is a lot of history. There's a lot of signs on the road, and you can actually learn a bit on your travels. on this stretch right here that I actually was very excited that this last fall and winter I actually ripped all my leaf springs out of the Jeep and did a 3-link with coilovers on the front and a 4-link with their actually factory JK coils in the rear. But when I did this trip 2 years ago, I had to air down with my 40-inch tires just to try and get it to be smooth enough to actually go up the road. This year I didn't have to air down at all. I could actually cruise and make better time, and overall round trip I ended up burning about 10 less gallons of gas, so it worked out really well. This stretch right here is actually the final descent down into it's Cayuse Creek, Cayuse Lake. I should have got a picture from above, but I didn't. But yeah, this is rolling down in almost to camp, maybe a mile out. Oh, there we go. There's the lake. I forgot I did that, but it's a really neat area. It gets cold at night, and my dad's camped there 3 times now, and all 3 times the deer in camp are ridiculous. If you are ever going to stay there, just be prepared for it, because they'll come in and they will eat any food you leave out. They'll be tripping over your tents. They'll be just keeping you up all night. So just be warned on that one. It's a neat area, but the deer are ridiculous. This right here is the lower campground where Dad and I camped 2 years ago. There's a tree down across it, and it's a little bit small for the group that we had this time. So I actually bumped up to the upper campground where we stayed. It's only a couple hundred yards up the road. Made it, middle of nowhere, Idaho. It didn't really take much video at camp. Just, I don't know. I figured the journey's fun for everybody to watch, but, you know, there to hang out with my guys, not be a videographer. So this is about the only clip you get of the first night and the next morning as we're taking off. This is actually the beginning of the bad stretch of road that I was talking about. So those were a couple Forest Service vehicles parked there, and they've done some thinning on this first leg, and I hope they plan to continue that. We'll see. You know, time will tell. I hope that they actually bring in equipment and really brush the edges, because to clear it out with just chainsaws will take forever. So it's a really neat road. I hate to see it just disappear, but you never know. This next stop, it's actually called Black Lead. I believe there was a lookout up there at one point. I don't know if it's still there or not. It might be. So this stretch of the road, it's still the bad road, but all the areas that have burned and the open faces aren't too bad. It's when you get out on the far side and you start dropping down, it gets really, really brushed in. So of course, once things get a bit brushy, we have to run into someone in the narrowest part of the road. This guy wasn't exactly the friendliest person I'd ever met out in the woods, but the second guy here, he was super nice. We really appreciated him. But here, I wish I did take some slower video, which will be coming up to show, but a lot of these bushes in the high speed, you can't tell that they're dragging down both sides of the vehicle. It's getting pretty bad. This stretch right here isn't even in the worst of it, but you can kind of grasp what is going on. It's not so bad the bush is dragging. I don't mind a few Idaho pinstripes, but the problem is in a lot of those bushes there's actually blowdown treetops and stumps and all kinds of stuff that can really ruin your day. So you have to really slow down and go through these parts with a little bit of caution, a little bit of care. Otherwise you're gonna have a really bad day. You're in the middle of nowhere at this point. There's no quick way back and no quick way forward. This bridge is called Cayuse Landing. There's actually an airstrip down there, and we thought the road was going to get better. Met some nice people right there. They waited for everyone to get past them. But the road is really washed out on this stretch. It's all in hyperlapse, so you can't really tell, but there are some big holes to hit. So it'd be nice if they could get a blade down there and actually fix this one too. This one ties Cayuse Creek up and over into Kelly Creek, and Kelly Creek becomes the North Fork of the Clearwater River. 12 inches of rain, July was super wet. Well, they have to average. I guess this campsite will work. Nothing like doing some backcountry mechanicking. Little brother's tires are way out of balance, so he can't go over 20 miles an hour, so we're swapping our trailer tires onto his Jeep for the trip home. We got little asphalt that we have to travel down, so we're getting bigger tires on the trailers. He's getting smaller tires on his Jeep. Of course, things were going too good on the trip, so about right here I had to run out of gas. Had more on, had to put some more in, but got up and going, and then a few miles down the road, Dad runs out of gas. So on this stretch, my brother, he was very, very appreciative of us swapping tires with him. All this stretch of asphalt, he would have been bouncing like crazy. This is actually the first stretch that we left on, we're coming back on, and he was struggling back then too. So he was very happy to switch and made his trip back home a lot better. Now mine, not so much. I just had that trailer beating me all the way back. So right here, Dad radioed and said he needed to put some gas in. So we stopped, he put some in. He runs a Holly Sniper fuel injection. And when his tank gets low, it'll start to boil the fuel. Well, it boiled enough that he actually had problems. He didn't want to catch prime again, so we stopped for 10 to 15 minutes, and he caught prime. Well, while that happened, my brother, his transmission got stuck in third gear, and so we got Dad's fired up, and we got my brother's going down the road, and as he drove, he got it out of gear again, so he was able to continue on.